I didn't really want to read off a page, but I had to because otherwise I knew I would miss out something so important. So. Andre was my best friend. He was my favorite person in the whole wide world. He loved me for me, and he never judged me, no matter how screwed up or crazy my thoughts or actions were. The way he felt about me was unconditional. He was dynamic and full of life. He lived life to the fullest and made me want more than a monotonous existence. He showed me the excitement of every moment. He had the ability to elicit laughter in situations that would normally bring out tears, anger, or yawns of boredom. There was nothing about Andre that was boring or cliche. Andre's actions were pure. He was the type of sugary sweet character whose endearing actions of selflessness melted people's hearts. I cannot begin to tell you how many times he would prove how lovable he was. He never blended himself his daily breakfast smoothie without making one for me too. He cooked extra food for me and left it in the refrigerator, and then he would put a note or give me a text to let me know he was there for me. And then when I became transfixed on the idea that fluoride was inhibiting my meditations, he bought me fluoride-free toothpaste. He tossed it to me, and he said, "Here, open your third eye." I've known Andre for 7 years, and I'll always remember the first night we truly bonded. He shared his whole life story with me, and I told him all my deepest, darkest secrets. We clicked instantly. The whole universe and all the people and elements of our lives were a galactic scheme for us to meet each other and be friends. We were always destined to know each other. We felt complete comfort around each other, and I had complete trust in him. And we had a lot of crazy adventures. One time I went to go visit him in DeKalb, and it was during a snowstorm, and the first thing I do is drive us straight into a ditch. And then we had this idea that we would hitch some rides with some strangers, but everyone who was driving along that road that night was drunk, so. And then a trucker came, and he tried to tow us out, and then he got stuck. And then we ended up giving him a ride after we got towed, and we got home at like 8 a.m. It was crazy. And Andre was so special to me because for some silly reason, he loved me unconditionally. I couldn't believe that someone as sweet and as pure as him could love someone like me. His being such a huge part of my life was like winning the lottery, and I really can't believe how lucky I was. And Andre didn't think it was enough to love somebody. He made it a priority to make them feel loved. And that was his gift to me. He always made me feel loved. He changed my life forever because he actually believed in me. He helped me stop hating myself with the power of his encouragement and his unwavering faith in my potential. He always gave me more than I gave him, and I feel like I could never do enough to return all his love because he always put me first. Andre had so many hopes and dreams. He told me all the things he wanted to do in the future. And knowing his dreams, I feel like it's on all of our shoulders to carry the torch of his life. And we discussed the idea that all matter is made of vibrating strings of energy. And as such, everything, including people, resonates at different frequencies. So a human being's life is essentially music. His whole life was a brilliant melody, and he never even realized it. His music was beautiful. He harmonized with those around him. He brought out emotion and feeling in those whose lives he touched. He had the ability to comfort and soothe or excite and make someone feel really alive. His life was all about movement. He wanted me to be spiritually enlightened, and he said he was happy when I was happy, healthy, and pursuing my goals, whatever they were. So, wherever you are, Andre, I just want to say happy birthday.
I didn't really plan anything. I kind of like to just ad-lib a little bit, if you guys don't mind. But first off, I do want to thank you all for coming out here on such short notice. It was very important to us to celebrate his life on his birthday. Andre was a very special person. He was someone who had strings everywhere, just in Brazil and Europe, and everywhere that he went, he just spread love and cared so much about people. He was the type of person who really did not spend a whole lot of time on himself. It was never really about him. It was always about other people, whether it was with Greenpeace or with Unity or with social work. All of his time was spent on other people. And that's a rare thing to see. You don't see that very often in people, at least not genuinely. A lot of people will do things out of a selfish reason, but he was completely unselfish in every way. A truly beautiful soul. A very good friend of mine, like Laura, he was someone who I just felt like I didn't have to try and be someone else. I didn't have to be anyone else but me, because it didn't matter. He loved me for who I was, and made me realize that I'm much happier as myself. I called him my big gay brother because he taught me a lot. If I didn't have him, I don't think I would be nearly as comfortable with myself or happy with myself as I am today. But one thing I was thinking about on the way over here was that he was a very happy person. And the last thing I want to do is make this a big solid fest. We should be celebrating his life. This was his accomplishment. This is one of the many lives that he will live. And one of the memories that I remember of him that may or may not be appropriate for the church, but I'm going to say it anyway. About 2 years ago for Market Days, I don't know how many of you know Market Days, I'm expecting a lot of you. I decided, he called me up and told me to come meet him at Sidetracks. By then, I had been out all day drinking, and so I was a little messy, but we decided to go anyway. So I meet him at Sidetracks, and I'm just a mess. I'm hitting on girls, I'm hitting on guys, I'm hitting on everyone. And he comes up with a smart idea. Hey, let's have a contest. Let's see who can get the most free drinks out of these people. We go about doing it, and I won, kind of, but somehow I decided on the walk home I would just, hop on a moving vehicle and bust my leg open. So here I am, just torn up. Like, if I was torn up before, now I'm just like ridiculously like, whatever, I should stop saying that. But I'm bleeding from my shin, I'm a mess. Because he's such a good friend, he decides to take me home, He had just gotten out there too, and here I dragged him away from a good party because he cared about me, He wanted to make sure that I got home safely. So he walks me over to the train station, I'm like on his shoulder, just like bleeding and cursing at everyone. And I ended up forgetting my train pass. So he starts talking to the lady at the train attendant. He's just talking her into like letting me go on because I need to get home. I'm bleeding, blah blah blah. And I'm over in the corner, just like leaning up against the wall. And he pretty much about had her ready to let me on, right? And then my drunk self comes stumbling up there, and I go to the lady. Girl, why are you being such a bitch? Why don't you just let me on the train? And needless to say, I didn't get on that train. But at least he tried, He tried. That's one of the things Andre does. He sacrifices himself for other people. Always. Always and truly, And I will miss him. I will miss him so much.